China's Uyghurs and their terrorist links. Xinjiang is an autonomous region in China. It is home to the Uyghur Muslim population. Islam is an important part of the identity and life of this community in China, and there's been a long history of discord between Xinjiang and Beijing, the capital of China. Xinjiang officially became part of Communist China in the year 1949. But the collapse of the Soviet Union sparked a separatist movement there. China was able to suppress the demonstrations, but it failed to completely get rid of activists who were raising demands for independence. Growing resentment among the Uyghur community has led to ethnic tensions in this region. China is now clamping down on this community after a series of violent incidents. Beijing imposed several restrictions recently. A large-scale riot in 2009 escalated tensions, and this was when the Uyghurs targeted the Han Chinese, the ethnic Han Chinese. Around 200 people were killed during that period. And since then, there's been a marked rise in violent incidents in this region. Members of the Uyghur community have been charged with several terrorist incidents. China has stepped up surveillance on the Uyghurs. There is strict control over religious schools. Members of the Communist Party of China have also been tasked with carrying out what they call homestays with Muslim Uyghur families. And this is how Chinese Muslims are celebrating Ramadan this year. They're being re-educated. Let's now take you to Israel, the second country on our list. It saw deadly clashes this week, and the onset of Ramadan only makes the situation more complicated there. Thousands of people flocked to the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. It is the third holiest site in Islam. It is also a place where tension tends to flare up, and given the kind of violent protests and deaths we've seen this week, it is a nightmare for security agencies. So what does a state like Israel do? Remember, Israel has a tough reputation. It takes no prisoners. It comes down hard on terrorists or any kind of group that poses a security threat. Our military operations halted for Ramadan in Israel. This is how things stand at the moment. Palestinian protests have subsided, but tension hangs thick in the air. Jerusalem is a tinderbox. The Netanyahu government is taking no chances. Security has been stepped up for Ramadan. More than 3,000 police officers are on duty in Jerusalem's Old City alone. But there are no limits to access to Temple Mount. It also happens to be the holiest site in Judaism.
The Israeli National Police have heightened security in and around the area of Jerusalem with emphasis on the Old City and the Temple Mount area. We're expecting tens of thousands of people to arrive in the Old City for the first Friday prayers of Ramadan, and involved in the security arrangements are more than 3,000 border police and regular police officers from a wide range of units that will prevent any incidents from occurring throughout the day.
There's good reason for the agencies to be on edge. The killing of 60 Palestinian protesters was tragic and plain wrong. But Israel says that most of them were Hamas militants and it was acting in self-defense. To be fair to them, the protests weren't exactly peaceful. Israel's response was arguably disproportional. Amid this debate, people in Gaza continue to suffer. There's little festive cheer for them. Gaza has a population of 2 million. 80% of these people depend on aid to survive. The violent clashes this week have hit business in the holy month. Families are struggling to make ends meet. Listen in.
الحصار بنشقه والنكد بنشقه اللي احنا عايشين فيه وقطع رواتب بنشقه كيف بده يكون له اجواء رمضان من وين بده يجيب الواحد ياكل الوضع صعب فوق ما انا وانت بتتصور ازمه اقتصاديه عندنا بيقولوا حرب عسكريه احنا حرب اقتصاديه اوسخ من الحرب العسكريه
كئيب للغايه يعني وحزين كل بيت فيه جريح وكل بيت فيه شهيد كل الامهات حزينه فيش اجواء بالمر كل سنه بنلاقي الفوانيس معلقه والاضاءات السنه معدوم خالص يعني مش زي كل سنه بنفرحوا الناس الله يعين الناس كيف بدها تجيب اكل كيف بدها تجيب شرب لاولادها لاهاليها فيش ولا حاجه.
Let's now come to India, where the onset of the Muslim holy month has come with a controversial decision. Some say controversial. The government has declared a conditional ceasefire in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. What does that mean? It means that security forces have been ordered to not conduct any operations during this month. The idea is to maintain peace for those observing Ramadan. Remember, terror has no religion, as I've been saying, but that's besides the point for the moment. The bigger issue is that the ceasefire is unilateral. Is the other side honoring it? Do terrorists believe in it? Far from it. They've stepped up attacks on security forces. Remember, terror groups in Kashmir suffered huge losses in a wave of operations conducted by the armed forces recently. Now they're hitting back. Operation All Out was a joint offensive by the Indian Army, the Jammu and Kashmir Police, the CRPF, the Border Security Force and the Intelligence Bureau. It was launched last year to flush out all terrorists in the state. India's forces killed more than 200 terrorists during this counter-insurgency operation. Defense analysts say the government's conditional ceasefire will erode these tactical gains and embolden the terrorists. Security forces have been asked to hold back from carrying out search and destroy and coordinate search operations in the Kashmir Valley. There is a feeling that 1 month of ceasefire will give terrorists a chance to regroup, to rearm and recalibrate for the summer. So is this offer only politically motivated? What or who has forced the government's hand? Will this ceasefire hold, given that terrorists continue to strike? Jammu and Kashmir Police Chief SP Vaid has said that if security forces are attacked, they have the right to retaliate, and they will. We hope this Ramadan is a peaceful one, and we wrap this segment with the question, who made Ramadan the month of terror? Think about it. Is the Trump-Kim summit still on? Yes, says Donald Trump. The US president says that he is, quote-unquote, willing to do a lot and offer Kim Jong-un, quote-unquote, protection if he were to commit to an agreement, the very first between a US president and a North Korean leader. In fact, Donald Trump has contradicted his own national security advisor John Bolton by saying that he is not considering the so-called Libyan model for dismantling North Korea's nuclear weapons program. We'll get to the Libyan model in just a bit. Bolton's suggestion led to the North threatening to pull out of the June 12th summit with Trump in Singapore. Trump says he's offering Kim a deal. This deal will allow Kim to stay in power and make his country rich. So is this the born businessman's attempt to placate North Korea? It could well be. Remember, Pyongyang had threatened to scrap the June summit following Bolton's comments, placing Trump's crowning diplomatic moment in jeopardy. Trump could have let the matter rest at his generous offer, but as has been his style, he rambled on to say that the Gaddafi model would, quote-unquote, most likely take place if the deal with Kim did not happen. The approach is classic carrot and stick. On one hand, Donald Trump is reassuring North Korea. On the other hand, he is indicating that the US will take more dire action if the meeting does not happen. But again, he did not elaborate. Let's now take a look at what's happening 30,000 feet below the sea level. Plastic has been found in the Marianas Trench. It's the seafloor's equivalent of Mount Everest. It's the deepest trench in the Earth's crust, going deeper than 35,000 feet. A survey has revealed that disposable plastic debris was found in the Pacific Ocean Trench. What's worrying is that human activity looks to be impacting ecosystems that are very far from its reach.
If one thought there were places that had remained untouched by plastic pollution, it's not at all the case. In a study released by Japanese scientists, they found plastic remnants near the bottom of the Marianas Trench. That's 1,000 kilometers from the nearest human settlement, and it's also thousands of meters deep underneath the ocean floor. While nearshore pollution and the mid-ocean trash fields have been well documented, the Japanese researchers said less has been reported about the impact humans have had in the deep sea. What the scientists listed was over 3,000 bits of plastic and fishing equipment. Their data was mostly collected by deep-sea submersibles and other remotely operated machinery. To study this deep trench, the Japanese Agency for Marine Earth Science and Technology compiled images over the span of 3 decades. The data was gathered during more than 5,000 dives in the Pacific Ocean, the Pacific, which is already home to a continental-sized plastic garbage patch. What the discovery shows is that most of the waste found was from single-use plastic. These include items such as plastic bottles and disposable food boxes and cutlery. The study also shows a third of human debris found was macroplastic, which means fairly large objects. The findings were entitled Human Footprint in the Abyss, 30-year records of deep-sea plastic debris, a title that certainly shows the saddening extent of human waste. It's also proof that pollution has now reached far and wide, leaving no corner of the planet untouched. Bureau Report, WION.
And as the countdown to the royal wedding slowly inches to its last leg, every minute detail is being given an extra touch. The royal wedding cake, perhaps the most integral of all the preparations, has become the talk of the town. Take a look.
It took 6 bakers 5 days to prepare the royal wedding cake.
However, it's not just the cake that's grabbing eyeballs. The fact that it breaks with royal tradition for the first time makes it all the more special. The couple has decided to not go for the royal tradition of fruit cake. Instead, they've chosen lemon and elderflower creation with a buttercream icing, topped with fresh flowers. But what influenced the choice of the royal couple? Well, they preferred this as they wanted the flavors specific to the season. The cake's designer, Claire Patak, who considers the opportunity a dream come true, calls the cake more of an installation than a typical wedding cake. Claire's team has been busy putting the final touches to the quintessentially spring and British wedding cake for the prince and the American TV star. The cake also bears royal couple's personal touch as they helped choose the right floral flavour after several tastings. Meghan Markle chanced upon the baker par excellence when she interviewed her for her former food and lifestyle blog, The Tig, which she shut down as she made a mark in the American TV industry. And for those wishing to catch a glimpse, 3 cakes of various sizes will be transported to Windsor, displayed in the form of an installation. Though the royal couple hasn't yet tasted the final product, the bakers believe it would leave the couple wanting for more. Bureau Report, WION.